Hello friends and neighbors, and welcome to another episode of What's All the Fuss About? Now when we ask the question, what's all the fuss about in this series, we are referring of course to movies. But fuss isn't just made over movies, it's also made over movie makers. And one director that critics have hailed as one of the finest American filmmakers ever is Martin Scorsese. Scorsese, let's call the whole thing off. Scorsese became well known in the film world for his 1976 film Taxi Driver, number 52 on this list, and his 1980 film Raging Bull, number 4 on this list, is considered to be his finest cinematic achievement. And after a few films that received mixed reviews throughout the 80s, 1990 saw a return to form for Scorsese with his mob picture, Goodfellas. Critics have hailed it as his best work since Raging Bull. It's number 92 on AFI's revised list, and we're going to look at it today to find out what's all the fuss about.
Do you follow me?
Not guilty.
Fight in here. This is
Shoot
the
your
world.
eye out, kid.
Why is the run go? Serious.
Here's your graduation present.
What for? I got pinched.
Everybody gets pinched, but you did it right. You told them nothing, and they got nothing.
I thought you'd be mad.
Man, I'm not mad. I'm proud of you. You took your first pinch like a man, and you learned the two greatest things in life.
What?
Look at me. Never rat on your friends, and always keep your mouth shut.
Goodfellas is an in-depth look at the mob through the eyes of young Henry Hill. Henry Hill says at the beginning of the film that he always wanted to be a gangster, and he gets into it at a very young age, attracted by the glamorous lifestyle. We follow Henry through his life in the mob and see how he takes advantage of his connections, how the mob becomes something of a second family to him, only to turn on him when things go bad. Ray Liotta stars as Henry Hill, and Joe Pesci and longtime friend and collaborator of Scorsese, Robert De Niro, star as two of his fellow mobsters. All three of these main characters allow the power and the glamour of the mob to go to their heads. At one time, their connections have made them so rich and so influential that they have anything that they could possibly want, and they can basically do anything that they want. And in the end, all three of them are forced to pay for their overindulgence. One of them is killed, one of them is arrested, and one of them is forced to endure probably the worst punishment of all. That of a normal life. So what's all the fuss about? This film is masterfully put together. The cinematography moves a mile a minute, and you really feel everything that these characters are feeling. One of the trademarks of Scorsese's directing, at least in those three films that I mentioned earlier, is that the films are not so much movies as they are experiences. He doesn't just show you or tell you what's happening, he actually places you right in the middle of the action and makes you feel as if you're there. So we are allowed to drink in the glamour of being a part of the mob, we are allowed to feel the tension and paranoia at possibly being knocked off, and we are allowed to experience the growing paranoia as it builds to the end of the film. Another thing that Scorsese does is he shows us a character who is neither wholly good or wholly bad and kind of casts him in an ambivalent light. And this is basically the life story of Henry Hill and his life in the mob, but really the focus of the story is the mob itself. That's what's being cast in the ambivalent light here. This is not a romanticized view of the mob by any means, but it's also not completely bad. A lot of these scenes really do portray the mob as a second family, particularly the wedding reception where all of these people are lined up to give this new couple money to help them get started. And there's also a whole bunch of family dinners and get-togethers with all of these mob people just coming and spending time together. But on the other hand, even some of these sequences show a lot of the behind-the-scenes dealings of the mob members. And in a lot of other scenes, we see just how quick-tempered and violent these mob members are. We see that while the mob life is glamorous, it's really easy to screw up, and if you do something stupid or look at somebody the wrong way, you could end up dead. So as things progress, we can't help feeling as paranoid as Jimmy or Henry as we're watching. Like I said, we're basically given Henry Hill's life story, and this is one movie I would cite as an example of narration used effectively. This is Henry telling us his life story, and every shot is basically what we might be seeing as we're imagining his story. There are even a couple of times when his wife, Karen, takes over the narration, looking at the mob from an outsider's perspective. Henry doesn't ever tell us anything that we don't already know or we can't already infer. He's basically there to move the story along, and it really works. As far as crime dramas go, this is probably one of the best. It's got excitement, suspense, interesting characters, and a feeling that we are actually living this story rather than just watching it. If you're into crime dramas, this one's definitely worth checking out. The fuss is definitely merited, and on the worth meter, I'd give this a worth owning. Thanks for watching. Next time we'll be looking at one of the films that was dropped from AFI's Top 100 list in the revision, A Place in the Sun. See you next time. Hello friends and neighbors, just wanted to make a few post-outro announcements. First of all, new King of the Web campaign starts today at noon Pacific time. I appreciate any votes that you're willing to give me. Second, update on the Books vs. Movies Review musical. The script is written, the first draft at any rate. A lot of work still needs to be done on it. I will be posting periodic updates on how this is progressing on my Twitter account and on my Tumblr account, both of which you can find in the doobly-doo. Links you can find in the doobly-doo and you can follow me on those. Third, my Tumblr, just wanted to remind you, I do have a Tumblr and I put blogs and updates on there periodically. Also, you can find answers to all the continuity questions you might have, like who my evil twin is and where all these characters come from that I periodically introduce. You can also find an explanation of the worth meter that I use in my reviews if you're not sure exactly how that works. And you can also find somewhere on there the first 2 pages of the Books vs. Movies Review musical. However, I haven't made it easy for you. You're going to have to hunt for them. So, good luck with that, and I'll see you next time.